Oh.
This is Bestow, a playtest part one. Um, Before we get into the game, let's do some quick introductions. My name is Gabriel Robinson. I use he, they, and go around the table. If you could just give us your name, pronouns, anything you want to shout out. I'm the co-writer of this game. I've written a lot of other material for the Gauntlet, the co-writer for the Silt versus RPG, and I'm a co-writer for this game as well, along with B. Narr. Let's go to you next.
Hi, I'm Narr, they, them. I also co-wrote this game with Gabriel, which was a blast. I'm very excited, very excited for this. I also write stuff for the Gauntlet sometimes and do voices and, scream for money sometimes.
Mhm.
And, but mostly I'm just really hyped to see what y'all do with this.
Let's go to L.
Yeah, I'm Elle. My pronouns are she, her. I did not co-write this game, but I have written some things for other Gauntlet properties. Yeah, really excited to be here and play this game again.
Yeah, L was in the first play test right off of a Silt versus campaign I was running. And as you'll see, always a delight. So I had to see if she wanted to come back. And I'm so glad you're back. Let's go to Kat.
Hey, I'm Kat. I also did not co-write this game. I use she, her pronouns. Um, Sometimes they. And I don't write anything for the Gauntlet, but I do write some things with B every so often. So there is that.
And you have a really cool channel. You run a lot of games, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah, we're talking about me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I stream on Twitch and I write other things. Um I am a writer slash content creator for tabletop role playing games, but yeah.
Nice. And Alex.
Yeah, I am Alex. I use he, they pronouns. Unknown to Gabriel and B, I did co-write this game. No, I didn't. I had no involvement that they know of. Yeah, I am involved with the Gauntlet. I work alongside Jason over there. I put a lot of stuff out on the Patreon. I edit things. I edit and make design contributions to various Gauntlet projects. Currently editing and polishing Arkham Herald and various other projects in the state of development outside of the Gauntlet. I'm just a voice actor guy, and I also do game design and editing for some other people. Like Hatchlings have Cryptid Creeks coming out pretty soon. I am the editor of that and contributed to the game substantially. And I'm very proud of that work. So I'm excited to plug it, and I'm more excited to play this because Gabriel and B talked a lot about this when I last saw them a few months ago in person, and I'm very excited. I talked a lot there. I don't know why.
Yeah, it's good. A lot of
So
good stuff to get
we're
into.
secretly linked to the project.
We are, yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
I was like,
I'm
wait, you're the
surprised.
same founder.
Surprise, I'm your editor.
Yes. Okay.
We have a whole
Okay.
conspiracy board
Oh my
connection.
goodness. I'm gonna get the board up. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, so this is the third playtest that I know of. I got to run the first one. Another group has run a playtest, which has been very helpful. I've tweaked a couple things since then, and yeah, we may make some rulings on the fly. This game will no doubt change a little bit more, but the important thing is just the vibes, having fun with the characters, and telling a really cool story. So I'll do cats really quick. Cats is concept, aim, tone, and subject matter. And so Bestow is a game about haunted landscapes, intergenerational trauma, family curses. As characters, you will be playing siblings who are visiting an old family home after an estranged relative has vanished. When you encounter evidence of sinister activities and a dark presence inhabiting the home, you'll have to come to terms with the true nature of your family history and ultimately find a way to lay the past to rest. So this game is pretty much inspired by things like the film Hereditary, The Haunting of Hill House, the TV show, also the novel, also things like the film Sator, Mexican Gothic, and Old Gods of Appalachia, podcast. So that's sort of story across generations of families sort of making pacts with dark entities. The aim as characters, it's kind of weird compared to other carved from Brindlewood games, which I skipped right over. This is a game carved from Brindlewood, so it uses the mystery system of Brindlewood Bay and the Between and other games. We've done some interesting tweaks to that though, so it doesn't quite act the same way. If you're unfamiliar with that watching this, the most important things about that are that we are playing a mystery, but we don't have a set solution. The players here are going to be finding clues and coming up with a solution on your own. So I, as the keeper, don't know how things are going to go. As characters in this game, though, you don't know that you're in an investigation right away. So you're just showing up to the family home. You're going to realize things are kind of weird. And as the story progresses, you will be trying to uncover these family secrets, and you'll have a few goals that will show up for how to deal with that. As players, we're especially looking at your fraught pasts, the sort of drama between these characters. Again, it's sort of that horror movie where, there's the supernatural, there's monsters, but the thing that'll really get you is the trauma. So it's your relationships and the complicated family history that we'll really get to dig into. The tone of this game is definitely dark, unsettling. We're getting into family histories with dark entities, the occult, maybe curses over generations, all things that your characters don't immediately realize. So the house that the family has built and inhabited for generations is almost this malevolent entity in itself. It's trying to ensnare your characters and keep you there where you belong. So this game, we're embracing all those tropes of the media I mentioned. Obviously, humor comes out of that naturally. We'll always try to come back to that kind of gloomy space. And it's kind of like a slow burn A24 horror movie is what we're going for. Subject matter gets into some dark stuff, so we'll talk about safety tools in a minute. But family trauma, potentially things like mental illness, supernatural horror, some graphic violence, ritual sacrifice, potentially harm to children and animals is implied. Even things like implied gaslighting, emotional abuse from your elder who's been getting into this occult stuff. And we'll be using our kind of standard set of safety tools. So open door, obviously, if you need to go for any reason, you can go, no questions asked. There's enough of us to keep recording, we'll keep on playing. We also have the X card. If anything uncomfortable comes up, you can say X card, type in the chat, and we will pause the game, change anything we need to, and keep on going. Again, we won't question why. We'll just change what we need to. And we'll do lines and veils as well here in that safety tab, just to make sure we are filtering out anything we don't want to have in the game as a hard line. And we can veil things that will be sort of off camera or fade to black if we don't want to focus on them. And I think that's the gist of cats here. We'll pause the recording here. We'll make our, sorry.
So I keep thinking you're talking to me every time you say cat.
Oh, cat. Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, we'll pause the recording here. We'll make our characters and set up our safety and all of that. All right, so I'm actually going to read the prologue here, which gives us a little more context. The group will pick which elder. There's a few options here to decide who your elder is. And then from there, there's going to be some questions to answer as characters, and that will kind of step us through character creation. So before we even know who you are as characters, here's the prologue. You each got the call, a distant elder, the caretaker of the house, your family's ancestral homestead in the Great Smoky Mountains, has apparently passed away, naming you as inheritors in their will. No one knows how they died. No information has been shared regarding their body or funeral arrangements. And the rumor among your scattered relatives is that they had long been expecting their inevitable end. So we have 4 choices here, actually, as players. You all are going to decide which elder we're going to tell a story about. I'll paste them here in the chat. So your choices are the first one, Granny Gloria Lee, a strange, secretive woman, had a complicated relationship with your parents and rarely talked about her personal life. I'll just read the first part of each. Once you pick it, then I'll have a question for you. There's also Uncle Virgil Harlow, a mean old bastard, reclusive and unfriendly. He kept most of the world at shooting distance from his front porch, but he had a soft spot for you. There's Elder Joe Crane, a beloved community figure, revered for their knowledge of natural medicines and the ability to perform healing miracles. And then there is Reverend Samuel Blackburn, a local legend. After a lifetime of touring, a series of award-winning albums, and increasingly cryptic folk hymnals about the God in the mountain and visions of the end of days, they abruptly vanished from the public eye. So what sounds interesting to you all?
God, I got to tell you right out of the gate, I'm either super interested in Reverend Blackburn or Uncle Virgil Harlow. Those are the two that like jumped out to me.
I was thinking Uncle Virgil sounded really cool too, but I'd be happy with the Reverend as well.
Those were the two that I picked out.
Oh, no.
I like all of them.
B, you gotta be the tiebreaker then.
Come
I'm
on,
not
baby.
allowed to be. I'm not allowed to be the tiebreaker. Like, that's not how this works.
That's what going last does, I guess.
Mhm.
Yeah, but I wrote this. Oh man, alive.
One
Come
of us
on,
wrote
baby
each
of
of
the
those,
family.
so
I know. Well, since Elle also mentioned Uncle Virgil, I think that we can go with him.
Cool.
Especially, like, I feel like that's like actually the tiebreaker, so I'm putting it back on you, Elle.
wait. Sorry, does that mean it is Uncle Virgil? Or...
It
Yeah.
is. Yes.
Okay.
That means it is.
Right, I'm making a decision. Let's go with Uncle Virgil.
All
Yes,
right,
there
okay.
we go.
Unanimous. Okay.
Yes,
We
there
did
go.
it.
So then we have a follow-up question for all of you. Supposedly, Uncle Virgil wasn't always a recluse. What is rumored to have driven him into isolation? And why do you think this isn't the whole story?
Oh, that's a good one.
Are we each coming up with a different rumor?
Yeah, you can kind of piggyback off each other's. It's open to you all.
I had an idea that maybe his significant other died or and that is what put him into isolation, perhaps.
I was thinking something similar. I was thinking like either like some kind of loved one, right? If not like if not like a partner, like maybe even like a child. Or if it's not a loved one, I was also thinking the possibility of like, what if he like went to war, and like came back just bad, like he was real traumatized.
Bad.
He was like scarred or something like that, like grievously wounded in war. So those were the two that my brain was like thinking of. I don't know. L, B, what are your thoughts?
I like that one too.
Yeah, I do like this idea of Uncle Virgil having come back from the war, sort of broken by his experience. Yeah, I
Hell
think
yeah.
that's cool.
Maybe it's both. Maybe he came back from the war broken from his experience and then immediately lost someone he cared about deeply, and it drove him further into isolation.
Oh.
Just
Or it
twofer.
happened while he was gone.
While he was gone.
Oh,
There it is. There it is.
Oh,
Maybe
that
he only went because she told him to.
Oh no. Oh, it's already so
Oh,
tragic. There we go.
Oh, tragedy.
Yep.
Well, he sounds quite nice.
Yeah. All right, we've got characters set up. So now we're going to finish character creation and just a couple more steps. We're going to do some introductions and a couple more things, but we'll step you through it. So we'll start with the responsible sibling, Isaac Harlow. As the responsible, it's always fallen to you. Set an example, be strong, keep it together. The others will look to you for guidance. But who is there to guide you? For better or worse, it was the elder who encouraged you to make your own path. Those choices were all your own, of course, were they not? So, Alex, if you could tell us any small details about Isaac, about your just general presentation. We've also included in our chat maybe a thing that Isaac cares about, a thing they have an aversion to, and then yeah, start there. We'll get into it from there.
Awesome. Yeah. Yeah. So Isaac, I'm picturing to be somewhere in his mid to late 30s, maybe even somewhere in the early 40s. He is dark haired, kind of like a little wavy dark haired. I'm imagining something like a little bit higher than to the shoulders, so a little longer. He wears glasses. He always looks cold, like even just in like the heat. It's like he's a guy who's always just kind of got that posture of like, I'm cold, or just holds himself in that way. And that reflects in his fashion too, because he usually is fond of wearing like cardigans, like kind of like more like not like full on like layers, like he's truly freezing, but he's got like the layered look to him, and generally it's pretty humble, with the exception of the Rolex on his wrist. That's almost kind of visible when he has his folded arm, cold like posture. And yeah, so as for like the thing that he cares deeply about in his life, yeah, I think he is very much into food, and so he's a chef, and I think he's like in the middle of like opening like his own place, like moving on to actually doing his own thing, as opposed to just like working in a different place, which has been an entire experience. And for his something that he has an aversion to, I think he has nyctophobia. He's afraid of the dark.
Perfect. Yeah, as I said in the chat, we are doing the bear, which I saw mentioned somewhere too. Like it's actually the perfect portrait of this sort of like complex PTSD and trauma. It's themes we love for this kind of horror. Let's before we get into the deeper question about Isaac, we'll just kind of get that snapshot of all the characters, and then we'll come back around just to give everyone time to kind of start thinking about each character here. Good stuff. Let's go to Rosemary.
All right. Rosemary is so in terms of her general presentation, she somewhat would appear mousy to most people. She seems very quiet. She's very slender and small in frame. She wears a lot of florals, uh, sometimes to the point of excess. Other than that, she's not very fond of sort of jewelry and knickknacks and makeup, and she likes to keep it very plain and very simple. She is I would say that she kind of is the kind of person that doesn't inhabit much space in a room. Whether that is purposeful or not, you would have to ask her. There's something leaning slightly into hippie in her nature, I think. In terms of things that she kind of cares deeply about. Her lifelong, I suppose, passion, the thing that she talks always about is true love. It's something that she thinks constantly on. She will always be telling stories, always be listening to romantic songs, and I think if we're relating it back to our elder, perhaps that was something that she spoke with him often on. Something that she has a little aversion to, she is a clean freak. She does not like dirt in the slightest. She hates when things are messy. She cannot help but have to tidy them up.
Nice. Oh, she's gonna have a terrible time coming back to this house.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
It's going to be awful from
Yeah.
the beginning.
Yeah. And I forgot to read the little blurb about the overlooked. So as the overlooked, getting this right, yes. As the second born, the gaze of the elder often passed over you, a mixed blessing. While left to your own devices, your insights were frequently ignored. But should your older sibling fail, it will fall to you to finish what they started. Will you? see. Next, let's go to the found, Rowan Carver. You've always been around, ever since your first family proved unlivable for you. In time, you've come to know this family better than they know themselves. Will they heed your advice when the hour grows dark, or will you take matters into your own hands? Tell us about Rowan.
Sure, yeah. Rowan Carver, they, them. What I've got so far, I think Rowan is in their mid to late 20s. They are very pale with very dark eyes, usually wearing kind of simple, flowy, monochrome clothing. Um, and there's something a little old-fashioned about them. Maybe it's like the structure of their face itself, like it's the kind of face that you don't see very often these days. Um, but whatever it is, like looking at them is kind of like looking at a black and white photograph. And I think they work at like a curios and taxidermy shop, at least right now. They have a very hard time keeping jobs. So it could be something completely different next week. But the thing that they care deeply about um, is animals, especially the ugly little creatures that arouse more fear than love. So spiders and insects are their thing. And something they have an aversion to, they hate loud noises. They like to hear to listen to the silence, to hear the soft buzzing of nature.
Nice. And that brings us to the baby. Damien Harlow. You grew up amongst shadows, those things no one ever talked about, but kept vague to protect you. You felt their presence all the same, and perhaps this has made you more keenly attuned than most. But will your older siblings believe you? B, tell us about Damien.
Damien Harlow. Him, probably in his very, very early 20s, like just, just right out of high school. And when you were talking about Rowan L, actually, this is fabulous because something that he cares very deeply about, a passion of his, is taxidermy. He, he really, really loves it. He's very good at it. And he sees it as a sort of a way to express his appreciation for living creatures, to replicate them perfectly in death. And something he very much hates is small spaces. He's like super claustrophobic. He would much rather be outside, or at least in a nice open room. We love those big windows. Um, he's he's kind of reserved. He has like, he buttons up his shirts all the way. He kind of likes longer sleeves, not in the way Isaac does because he's cold, but just because he's not like, it's just, it just doesn't feel comfortable for him. He's always kind of picking at the skin around his fingernails, always fidgeting. He's always moving somehow. He can't actually stay still. He needs something to do with his hands. Maybe that's why he got into taxidermy. Maybe that's just why he's fidgeting with every single thing in the house all the time. It probably annoys all of his siblings.
It's a great combinations, both of passions and fears. Everyone's going to have a terrible time here, but maybe they'll find things that they, are drawn to. So we're going to go back around. I'll just mention that each playbook here also has an inheritance, and I'm going to leave it up to the players to reveal that when you want to. It's another prompt. It's basically something that the elder has already left for you, or you still have, or something. And it functions either as an item that you can use for advantage during a roll, which we'll get into, or as a clue, which we'll also get into. So it's flexible. You can save it for the most dramatic moment. Just remember that you have it. And now we're going to get into those questions. We're going to go back around. Each sibling is going to share this memory, this family memory with the rest of the group. And this will help determine your ability scores. So just as an overview, we have vitality, which are like your physical actions of any sort. Composure is kind of keeping a steady hand, keeping calm, holding it together. Reason is sort of, your mental faculties, logic, problem solving. Presence is the force of your personality, trying to use that to influence the world. And sensitivity is your sensitivity to the occult and supernatural. We'll get into those when we make rolls. We'll kind of determine what's relevant for what you're trying to do. But each of your characters already has 2 ability scores already marked. You have a +1 on one of those scores and a -1, and those are already set based on your playbook. But as you go around and read your family memory here, everyone else is going to listen, and they're going to decide which of those abilities they think your story reflects, and they're going to give you an extra +1 in one of those abilities. Does that make sense so far? This is copied from an upcoming game, Pizza Time, which may have a similar character creation setup. Which
hey, I'm
really
the
cool.
co-writer on that.
Oh hey, yeah, it was it was so cool to see, and it's extra personal because the idea here is you're telling us who your character is, but the rest of your siblings are also telling us who you are because they know you. So that's the idea. And these scores, the other player, describe why you think you're giving them that score, and it's not a thing that we'll negotiate. You just get to tell them. So back to Isaac with the responsible. Let's hear your memory.
Yeah, so my prompt was to recall a time when you took on the burden of caring for your siblings, whether or not you were asked. How did you step in when no adults were there? What part of yourself did you push down inside so you could carry on? I think Isaac recalls being this would probably be like an older teenager then if Damien's just out of high school. I think Isaac recalls the various times when Uncle Virgil was either out or in more cases, well, more often than not, probably very drunk and unconscious in a different part of the house, maybe. And Isaac fed his siblings, and would take on like the various chores of like actually making sure that they're like maintained, like their physical health, like taking care of all of the food and going like grocery shopping and like really doing all of those like immediate chores that apply to their nourishment, so that no one like got hungry or got sick. Probably did like a lot of cleaning too. And it's fucked up, but the part of himself that he pushed down was his pain tolerance, or rather like his pain in general. Funny thing about the high cortisol levels of constantly running around using sharp knives and hot implements and using caustic chemicals and cleaning to keep everything in check is that when the calluses form and the cuts start to bleed, noticing them and worrying about them is time that was lost. And he kind of developed a numbness to pain. So like even now that's still reflected in himself. I think like it takes him a minute to realize if he's actually injured, and he still doesn't have any like strong reactions to it.
Nice. Based on that memory, based on that picture we're getting there, anyone can jump in. What stat do you feel like you want to give Isaac here?
And it's just like one stat increase I get from this, right?
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yep.
So like the group collectively. Got it.
Oh no, one from each player.
Oh.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh, wild. Okay, I'm in.
So you could end up
Oh, I
with
could end
up
up with
to
multiple. That's right. Yeah. Okay, the same
Yeah.
one. Yeah. Okay,
Yep.
interesting.
I mean, for me, I feel like I would go with vitality. I think that I'm looking specifically at the fact that if it's to do with an action that involves like endurance,
Mhm.
I think that being able to withstand high levels of pain, and kind of endure in that way, that's what it speaks to. There was a couple I could have
Mhm.
but that's the one that I'm like, I think that's the one that I would go for of the two.
Yeah, makes sense.
I do think vitality makes sense, but if I'm looking at this from Rowan's perspective, I think they would feel that Isaac's capacity to ignore the sometimes very urgent needs of his body and to sort of shirk his duty to like, kind of take care of his physical form in favor of like time management and crisis aversion. That feels very reasonable to me.
Oh,
Overly
cool.
so, perhaps.
Yeah.
This is very difficult because it's both of those, especially from Damien's perspective. I think I think but from like an actual like baby sibling perspective, I think it's vitality. I think it's seeing you as
Mhm.
this very almost like unshakably tough person.
Cool. Here we go. Let's go to Rosemary then. She's ready to
All
share a
right.
memory with us.
So, my prompt was to recall a time when I watched elder family members make a mistake, which could have been prevented had they listened to me, and what insight of mine was brushed aside, and what did I do with this information. Um, I think that Rosemary is someone that considers themselves very in tune with feelings and energy, and understanding people and emotion. And I think this particular memory, or in a way, set of memories, comes from when they were much younger, when mother and father were still around. I think they butted heads a lot. They were not able to listen to each other's hearts. They were only listening to their own hurt most of the time, and their kind of their own thoughts and feelings. Um, and I think that Rosemary feels that if they had kind of opened up to each other better, learnt to be more comfortable in being selfless, um, they would not have ended up trapped in such a miserable marriage for so long. Um, I think that the one time that she tried to talk to them about it, because I don't think Rosemary is not, I think she's not very good at speaking. I think she finds it difficult to shout loudly. Listening is her forte. And I think there was a time where they were arguing and she did try, possibly for the first time, to intervene, and to try to get them to hear each other's sides and to try to act in a mediator role. I think they were arguing about whether to go out that evening or not. And in the end, they brushed her aside. You know, they were running late for an event. They didn't listen to her desire for them to sit and talk. And they went out. And I think if it's okay with the rest of the table, I think they didn't end up coming home because I think that they passed away in a car accident. And what she took from that is that she did not want to be like them. She did not want to feel trapped in a marriage like that, or trapped in any kind of relationship like that ever. Look, y'all wanted trauma, okay?
Drama.
But I will obviously posit if this is. I just want to check in with the table on that
No,
one.
I'm all
Makes
in.
sense.
That's
I
great.
love it.
Yeah.
Especially because, like, and I said this in the chat, that seems like the exact territory. It's like, oh, our parents died, and then we went to live with Uncle Virgil.
Yeah, so I don't know. That was my idea for what might have happened. But yeah, I think that's what she took from it. And as a result, you might have noticed she is Rosemary Harlow Graves. This is her second marriage. And I think that recently she has started asking to just be called Rosemary Harlow again.
Yeah, something immediately jumps out to me as a fun little possibility between the like hippy dippy true love, you know, proclaiming girl, but also noticing that you are not having particularly good presence, like you're like not very good at speaking, and you're more of like a listener. I think though the fact that like you've been married twice, and like you have this a draw to you somehow despite not being good at talking, I think it might even possibly be a somewhat supernatural aspect there, like maybe some kind of like real like something that what's the word I'm looking for here? It's like you said to yourself, you're like you're really in tune with like people in the scene. So I think I'm going to increase your sensitivity by one, and that might speak to some sort of supernatural aspect.
I love that.
Yeah, I'm thinking sensitivity as well. For a different reason, I think. I think having had this kind of poor example of a marriage, and yet still being open and receptive to that kind of connection with another person, to the point where you seek it out over and over again and refuse to let yourself be calloused or scarred. Yeah, there's a sort of, I think there is sensitivity in that. There is, yeah, an openness to the world.
Very powerful. I think Damien sees Rosemary as a very composed person. I think that is like the chiefest of things about her. It's like because she's this mediator, and even if she's not very loud, maybe that even makes her come off more like she's very even-handed. And so she seems like, very very chill, but in like a logical way.
It's very interesting how these are playing out already. This array of abilities here. All right, let's go to Rowan, the found sibling.
Would you like to read the blurb for the found?
Oh, thank you.
Or did we already do that?
No, appreciate that.
No, I think we did that actually. We did it when we were creating characters.
That's right. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
You're the found family, your extension.
Yeah. Then my question is, recall a time when you stumbled upon the inner workings of the family, parents, older relatives, and their friends and such, going about the business of adults. what was the response to your trespass, and how did your experience with your previous family help you avoid the worst consequences? I think I'm recalling a time, it was late at night. I was already living with the Harlows, though I wasn't part of the family yet. Um, Even then, I was a light sleeper, and I woke up sweating and my skin burning. I was feverish. The world was swimming. And though I was upstairs in this unfamiliar bed, I somehow knew the Harlow parents were still awake, still downstairs. But I needed water, so I left my bed. I crept down the staircase, and I lingered just a few moments outside the arch that led into the living room. As I heard the parents arguing in heated whispers. "We can't take in another child," I heard the father say. I heard the mother respond, "Rowan is strange, but needs support. My sister can't do it. I don't think we have a choice here. The kid is weird. The big empty eyes. And why does she talk? She's going to be a bad influence on Rosemary." And it didn't embarrass me to hear that because I knew that they were right. And that's fine. So I just kept walking into the kitchen, careful not to make any sound, and I held myself to water until I'd had my fill and I felt a little better. I didn't rush, but the parents never even knew I was out of bed because I learned very early how not to be seen or heard, and I knew that silence could be like camouflage.
Well, I mean, right out of the gate, I'm gonna say that you should bump composure. You're very good at moving around unseen. It sounds like you definitely uh, are quiet and mindful.
Interestingly, I'm drawn to presence, not in the way of like necessarily force of personality. I just think that if you've captured, it's more to do with capturing imagination for me.
Mhm.
I think that you've captured like in this small time that you're there, you've turned this our father to be like that vehemently against you and like, oh, they're weird and there's something not
Mhm.
right and something. And I think that just your presence is um intimidating and curious and draws people in at the same time, in a way that is not necessarily through a force of personality.
Mhm.
Okay, so this is yeah, you gotta weaponize those big creepy eyes. But I think I'm actually I really latched on to like the kid is weird. And I think there is like an aspect of sensitivity to that. Like you are a little odd. And I think that's kind of how Damien sees Rowan is like a little weird, not in like a bad like in a kindred spirit way of like, yeah, I get it. But also maybe that you know shit that he doesn't. Like you just look like you know things. And so he just kind of assumes you must know something the rest of us don't.
Awesome. That's everyone, right?
Well, now we got to do B, right?
Yeah,
Oh,
everyone for the
everyone for
fountain.
that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. And then Damien.
Hi. So my prompt was recall a time when you broke the rules or ignored the instructions of other siblings who were left in charge of you. Oops. What kind of trouble did you get yourself into? What secret discovery did you keep from the others? I think this is when we've already had to move in with Uncle Virgil. This is because just timeline wise, our parents died when I was pretty little. I remember them, but I wasn't like, I wasn't like in a capacity to actually have formed a lot of opinions. And I had been told pretty aggressively by all of you, but mostly Isaac, to not go out, like to not sneak out at night, to not go out by myself because I'd done it a few times. I just wanted to get out of the house. I just wanted to go for like a walk. It was about 10. Too young to be walking out in the woods. But, I said I wouldn't do it. And I did it because I couldn't sleep. And I got outside of the house and just started walking in the woods and ended up getting completely lost. Just completely irrevocably turned around. And it was terrifying. It went from being nice, it's nice out, I'm by myself, it's this nice big open space, to feeling like these very narrow trails are closing in on me and they're all turned the wrong way and it's dark and I didn't bring a flashlight because I'm 10 and I didn't think about it. And I ended up finding a trail I couldn't ever find again in the daytime. And it went to this little clearing that felt very safe. And it was gorgeous. And it's where I stayed all night. And I ended up sleeping there and woke up and found my way back to the house. And I could never find that clearing again. I went out and looked every day for weeks until I finally gave up and figured I must have imagined it. But I didn't tell anyone. I imagine maybe one of you caught me coming back in the morning because I was 10 and not sneaky. But I didn't tell anybody what I'd done. I completely refused to admit to it. To this day, I think even I refuse to admit that I did that, even though I'm like 20. No, stick to the story.
I gotta say, right out of the gate, all of your character like details considered, for someone who's like just out of school, and considering like the situation, that speaks to me of like boarding school, like away, because you weren't here at the household, you weren't staying in the same place, so it was
Love
boarding
it.
school, a little
Yes.
preppy, getting some maybe some like Holden Caulfield vibes.
I'm in. Yes.
Yeah.
Canon.
And maybe a little bit to your detriment, but you have a very overactive, calculating mind. So I think you should bump your reason.
This is canon now. I went to boarding school. I probably got shipped off.
But
Nice.
also that would fit with the conservative fashion,
Well, I think if I like looking, a little bit of all of them spoke to me in very different ways, but I think that like for me, just the thing that really got me off the bat was just people told me to do something and I did the opposite. And I feel like that is in a very different way to Rowan. That is like a very much a display of like a sort of force of personality to me. It's like I think that you have like a presence, but yours is perhaps a little bit more like um you will be heard and you will not be like sort of squashed and pushed out if someone is telling you to do something and you don't want to do it. That that to me is like a kind of in its own way as well, like that's a very forceful personality, maybe charming at points. Like I don't know how like the story ends in terms of when you arrived home what everyone's reaction was, but I feel like if someone is getting in that much trouble, perhaps they have a little bit of charm to get them out of it, get themselves out of it occasionally too. So
Love it.
Yeah, I'm gonna say presence as well. In part for the reasons that Kat has mentioned. Um, but also this is someone who's like so antithetical to the idea of being like penned in or like kept in one place that like the world recognizes it and like gives you a path, like this weird secret path that appeared. Um, I don't know. I think that's interesting, and I also like the way it kind of fits in with your aversion to small spaces or claustrophobia. You just got to be out there.
Gotta be out there. I
Makes
love it.
sense.
Love it, guys. Also, I love that you just sort of gave me the boarding school thing, Alex. Thank you. Permission for all of you to just make up shit about
Yeah.
Damien. By the way, it's true, whatever you
It
say.
just
Yeah.
seemed so fitting.
Oh, that's great. Playtest note here. I realized this because this is one of those things that I've had like different versions of. Anyway, it's not important. I've given you more bonuses than the last version I thought, but I think this still works because there's no like leveling up of any sort. This is a shorter form game. So you should, it looks like everyone's even. You should have a total of like +3 in your stats, even though they're all spread out. So I think we're good. We have one more step of character creation, and then we will take a quick break and then get into the scenario part. So this is a mechanic from Planet Raygun by Mike Martins. These are called bond dice. So you're going to each take, whether it's an online roller or physical dice, you're going to roll 3d6s and just set those numbers aside. And while you're getting those rolls, I'll describe bond dice a little bit. So as siblings, this is the thematic part. You know, you've long lived in the shadow of your elder, of your relative. You have this family history. You're forever kind of bound to this house one way or another, but your own bonds you're even stronger, or potentially can be. And these sort of ups and downs of your sibling relationships are represented mechanically by bond dice. We'll get into it when they come up, but basically you're going to be assigning one of these dice to each of the other characters and then setting them aside. And what you're able to do with bond dice are basically swap that dice with that character in another role. So for example, if Alex had a bond of, let's say, 3 with B's character, B makes a roll, maybe one of them is a 1, and you want to help out, you can give B that bond dice and they can put that 3 instead of a 1. You can also think of the numbers before you assign them. You can think of, obviously, a higher number is better. So that might represent that you're especially attuned, you're kind of more on the same page, or you're closer. A low one might be some kind of tension or disconnect. But that's where you are currently. There's going to be opportunities to refresh those bond dice and re-roll them. And we'll get into that when it comes up. Does that make sense for a starting point? Let's go across. Let's go backwards in character keeper, if that's cool. Let's make B go first for once.
Damn it. Make me do it. Okay. I got a 4, a 2, and a 2. So I think it's like, I imagine the 2 and the 2 are actually with my 2 older siblings just because they're so much older than me and I got shipped off. So it's like, you know, and I think Rowan is the 4 just because you're also weird. And I can't, and like there was probably that camaraderie. Of course, I'm going to give this to the table. Like anybody can veto that concept of like where we're at as people, especially L, because I'm giving you the higher one. If you could be like, no, they think he's weird and not a fun way.
No,
It's
no, no,
also
I'm
fun.
into it.
We'll see as this goes along, but it's fun to just assign it because I've seen in playtests where one character will be like, no, we're great, and the other character's like, no, we're not, and that's just this inherent
gonna
Yes.
say, just
contrast.
one person's
So good.
like, I'm assigning this 1, and someone
Yeah.
else is like, oh, well, I thought that we
No,
were
we're
really close,
tight.
so I'm assigning the 6.
Yeah,
Like,
that's very fun. Yes, this
great.
is what Damien thinks of these folks.
Perfect. And just one more note, when you are rolling dice, just when that comes up, tell us the numbers on them just so the other players can be aware if their bond dice might come into play. Let's go backwards from there. What about Rowan?
Yeah, so I rolled 2 4s and a 2. I will give one of my 4s to Damien. Because yeah, Damien matches Rowan's freak, but like in a way that's not intimidating or or infuriating. Whereas Rosemary is gonna get the 2, because I think, yeah, I think it's almost like they're too similar, and Rowan does kind of feel like there's a weird negative feedback loop whenever they're together, where it's like we're competing to see who can be the most quiet and who can listen most intently. Like, who's doing their thing the best? At least that's how Rowan feels. And I will give the other four to Isaac. I think despite the fact that Rowan and Isaac are very different people, Rowan remembers when Isaac would take care of them as a kid, even though they weren't really siblings.
Nice. All right, then, yeah.
All right, I rolled a 3 and 2 4s, which I feel like fits Rosemary, not too close to anyone, not too removed from anyone. It's just a very kind of like disconnected middle ground in a way. I think that I think Isaac is gonna get a 4 because I think that they're quite similar in age. I think Rosemary does remember like a lot of the being taken care of. I think Rosemary looks up to Isaac in a lot of ways, to be kind of like the calm, responsible one with a bit of like presence when she doesn't have it, but also tries to help by being like the emotional support as much as she can. So I think that's a 4. I think that she views the relationship with Rowan differently. Because Rowan is so quiet, and I think it's just really purely a thing of like Rowan is quiet, and so she goes and seeks out being near Rowan when she just wants some peace. And has probably got no, well, maybe she's got a like a sense that there's like something. She's a little bit of a people pleaser, so she's almost trying to like befriend Rowan, and that's probably not working out for her at all. But it's that's where she's at with Rowan. So I think she considers herself like, oh yeah, like me and Rowan could vibe, if we spent more time together. The 3 is for Damien. I don't think she has any real animosity necessarily towards Damien. I think it's just that Damien is quite forceful with their opinions and their presence, and probably the butt heads the most. Rosemary probably gets the most irritated by Damien, I think. Yeah.
A young sibling. Yep.
I got a 6, a 2, and a 1. Bringing some variety to the party.
Wow, that's some variety.
Yeah. I am literally shaking thinking about this concept. So I'm going to start by saying I'm giving Rosemary the 1. And I think that is maybe somewhere in the subconscious. There in I think from a part of a perspective based on something you said, that there is this part of Isaac that blames Rosemary for their parents being dead, even if he's never said it out loud. Because even though the way you narrated it happening was that she tried to intercede in their fight and they kind of just shoved her off and ignored her, to Isaac, it more plays out that like maybe you interceding made them want to get out of the house, and that's what led to the accident. And again, maybe this was never vocalized, but he's holding on to that nugget of resentment.
Oh, it's okay. Rosemary agrees with you, I'm sure.
Yeah. I'm gonna give Rowan the 2, because not because I think of anything I don't think particularly ill of Rowan, but I think Rowan is a bad influence on Damien, especially because like Damien, as the youngest little baby of the family, has so much like chance to possibly escape like the shit that Rosemary and Isaac like had like spent their life doing, like is actually maybe getting to have some degree of a young adulthood outside of all this, and that you're making him weirder. Like you just, it's like you're egging him on, you're feeding into it. I think Isaac doesn't like super appreciate that, so there's maybe a little bit of tension there. That means baby brother Damien gets the 6, because even if he is a little troublemaker, he represents literally, it's truly in a very fucked up way. It's kind of the exact same as like, oh yeah, I've been boiling this broth for like 12 hours of like, this boy has been maturing, and it's like he has the chance to be, good and a good Harlow and escape all this stuff. And I really care for him as the youngest one. I'm really trying to sculpt him and shape him into like the man I think he can be. And so I care for him deeply, even if he doesn't want me to. I don't know.
Oh.
Spicy.
Yeah.
Alex, you're so spicy.
I rolled
What
those
a
numbers and I
setup.
started shaking.
Spicy numbers.
Started
There had to be
shaking with those.
spice.
Wow, I love all this setup. And this character creation takes a bit longer than this, but we're doing all this like behind the scenes. We're building up all this backstory that will then kind of come out. And just one other note that a low number is fun. It can represent that tension, but also with that other rule, Mike was just talking about this at one point, and I had to use it because it looks so cool. You can swap out the same number dice and let them re-roll it. So that could actually really save someone. Yeah, so just keep that in mind.
This is a preemptive like playtesting like note that I like. It's just like,
yeah,
because you think that the idea would be like, oh yeah, you can kind of sabotage your family. It's like, no, I like that it's like you can't use it to like give them a lower number, but you can use it to make them re-roll if it matches. I think that's it's fun that there's a PvP element, but it's not like, oh, I'm gonna fuck up your dice roll, bro.
Yeah. Yeah, and we'll see that unfold. If you haven't seen it already or looked too much, the equivalent of your sort of masks in this game, your prompts you can mark to bump up the results of a roll. Here, it's called your family legacy, and you don't have to as a player. So technically, it's all your choice. If you walk down that path, of course, narratively, it's juicy, and as you keep going down that path, it absolutely sets different siblings against each other as the sort of dark forces at work here get their hooks into you and they have their own plan for you. Maybe it's the elder, maybe it's the house or something else. So that's when that can really come into play. And we'll just talk about the mechanics when they come up. I think that's enough for the moment. Let's do a quick break here, like 5 minutes, and then we'll start with you all at the house. Right. All right. We're going to start with the siblings arriving at the house. I have a little blurb to read you, and then we'll see where you want to go. When you arrive, and we'll see how you all arrive in a moment. There's no lawyer there to greet you. There's no official reading of a will. There's no funeral to attend. There's just the house. And as you all step out of your various vehicles, for a moment, you smell blood and smoke on the wind. You remember that the elder left very specific instructions for each of you to come to the house and claim your inheritance, whatever that may be. You remember that the family lawyer, dictated a very simple note to each of you over the phone. It was simply, you know what to do, child. I'm curious how each of you got here, though. If you carpooled, if you drove together, if you could just maybe give us a scene of you all arriving. It doesn't have to even be at the same time. Just what do we see on screen as you show up at the house?
I think the first thing that would make sense to see is like, I imagine it's like a dreary early morning, like just like rain. It's not quite raining and it's not even really drizzling. It's just that occasionally there are droplets that fall from the sky. And Isaac is already here. He's already like out by the front porch, like leaning up against like the wooden banister, just like staring off into the middle distance. He of course got here first. I mean, he's up to rise before the crack of dawn anyway most days, so it makes sense that he's the most on time and to oversee the others' arrival. Undoubtedly his blue, Oh, it's a blue car. It's a sedan. I don't want to commit to a brand or a model. I was gonna say Prius, but that didn't feel like the vibe. No, it's some kind of blue, it's like dark blue navy sedan. Is like parked unobtrusively in the way. I'm not sure if this is like a driveway house or if it's like a long drive up, but I'm imagining a very like one of those like half like wraparound porches.
Mhm.
Uh and that's where he is. And I think we see him fiddling. Like his fingers are kind of like drumming against the wood, and you can see that his uh fingers have a little fading tinge of yellow to them, like staining. He is currently overcoming. He's coming off cigarettes. He's been curbing that habit. And he throws back a piece of like nicotine gum, and just is just staring, almost kind of like lost in his head amidst the sounds of this dreary morning.
Uh, I feel like Rosemary would possibly either arrive sort of at the same time as someone else, or just kind of not long after Isaac. I think notably, just based on the kind of the bond die that we've come up with,
Mhm.
I don't know that Rosemary gets invited to an awful lot of like family based things. And I think that like that's been okay up until a certain point. Most recently, you would probably had thought that Rosemary would arrive with her husband, Felix, in his car. But what is notable about Rosemary's arrival is she is dropped off by a taxi, I think. And she is alone. Um, she I think as she kind of steps out, um, she takes a moment to kind of uh she kind of smells that sort of that smoke and that blood on the wind, and she takes a moment to kind of re-immerse herself and reconnect with this place that she probably hasn't been to in a little while. And I think a look of probably very sincere and genuine sadness passes across her face for a moment. Um, and then she spots Isaac, and she kind of like tucks her hair nervously behind her ear. That's kind of her tick, is to constantly kind of play with her hair, and gives a little wave, and then sort of takes her bags and begins to make her way up towards the porch. And I think she tries to put on something of a smile, but um, yeah.
Nice. All these like standoffs through Zoom here. No, you. No,
The
you.
unmuting, I was like, no, you.
Um, yeah, I think probably a quite a long interval after Rosemary arrives. We see the arrival of Rowan. Um, they are kind of rambling down the long driveway in someone else's car. They got a ride from someone in town because they, took a train and a bus and another bus to get here. Um, as they step out, we see them with like the sleek black hair, shorter than the last time you saw them. Uh, Despite what I imagine is a sort of early morning heat beginning to rise, they're dressed in all black with like Doc Martens, and they're like fishing a bunch of bags out of the back of this person's car, like way too much stuff for like the days that we're going to be spending here. Um, yeah, I think they wave toward Isaac and Rosemary. Their face is sort of unreadable. There's not sadness there. Um, maybe it's more awkwardness than anything. I Am I the last one?
No, we are, of course, still waiting for Damien.
I thought someone was picking him up from the train station.
Was that me? Was I supposed to do that? I think she's genuinely trying to
No.
like remember if that was supposed to be her.
He
Exit.
I assume it's like modern day.
Yeah.
He takes out his phone and looks at his he like starts to get like a cross look about him and goes into his phone like he's about to like show you the text, but it's all very like slight passive aggression. Then he stops and just looks at his phone and goes, I had asked, but it seems I did not have reception when I sent the text. That one is on me. I can go get Damien. It's no problem. I'm happy to do it. Sorry, I did not mean to stress you out about that.
No, it's fine. Obviously I would, but I don't have the car with me, so I would have to take a taxi to the station, and then we would both have to take a taxi here. So, yes, probably easier if it's you.
I think
And
I'll
let's interject and just obviously do what you want, but we can totally run with this if you do
That's
want
funny.
to have Isaac come pick you up, because you can have a scene in the car. There's
That's
all kinds of ways
hilarious.
we can play this and it will be just fine.
I think that's funnier actually than having a taxi roll up just now. So I
Yeah,
am absolutely
sweet.
down with inconveniencing my older sibling. Please, Elle, continue what you were gonna say.
Oh no, I was gonna say I think Rowan completely unbothered by this mix up. It's just like I don't think we need to worry too much about him. He'll find a way. Always does.
Yes, Rowan, but it is also starting to rain, and I would not want him to, I mean, get sick out here. God's sake, you can still smell it, can't you?
I mean, if you insist.
Yeah. God knows what the air quality is like out here. What was it that they always used to say about that smell? Old copper mine or something like that? I don't really care, but either way, it can't be healthy to breathe in long term, especially in this weather. So, yes, I will go get Damien from the train station. I'm happy to do that. So he
Is
doesn't.
there anything that you want us to do in the meantime?
Truth be told, I really don't know what to make of really any of this. I guess it would be unreasonable to ask the two of you to stand out front until I get back. So I guess just yeah, I can trust both of you to just make yourselves comfortable, get the lay of the land. I haven't been in there in a long time, so honestly, would probably like to have a heads up before I go in.
This is a great moment, actually, for me to interject, because as characters, you don't know there's a mystery here. You actually are going to start with one question only, which is, why did the Elder really summon you here?
Yeah, and that's the point.
Two.
That's the point I'm operating on, because we all we know is that they disappeared, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's like literally it. It's just like
Yeah, and you got a weird like summons here. So learn the true significance of your presence at the house and unlock the next question. And just for anyone unfamiliar with the Brindlewood system here, complexity 2 just means lower complexity. You need to find clues to answer that question. You'll come up with the answer. We'll get into that later, but it's fairly low. You'll just need a few clues. In fact, I'm going to leave one clue because Isaac's already been hanging out on the porch. Weirdly, there's a pile of unopened gifts just kind of around the porch near the front door. Some of them, actually, I'm going to say none of them even have addresses.
Yeah, I'm gonna add a detail if that's okay. Just
Yeah.
I think that since he was the first one here, he probably found those and then he has not told anyone about them because he then picked them up and he put them in the trunk of his car. He's intending to like bring them up once everyone's here, but he didn't like
Nice.
leaving them out there, and it just kind of became the secondary thought of like they're just in his car.
Great.
Yeah.
That's a perfect, yeah. So as players, if someone wants to put that in the summer reunion, oh gosh. These are old questions. Don't worry about it. I will edit them between now and then, but just put it in the clues tab.
Oh, I see something on it.
Yeah. So great. So we will let's have Isaac. We'll cut you, he can drive off, and then we'll pick up with Isaac and Damien in a moment. But in the meantime, there's a couple locations here. Obviously, the house is most of it. There's the interior, there's the sort of entryway inside the house. If you start to look around, you can definitely go to any of these places, kind of tell me what you want to do, and we'll go from there. But there is, a kitchen, living room, upstairs. There's different guest rooms. One of those being the elder's room, Uncle Harlow's room, and on the family land, it's kind of bordered by woods. It's very mountainous, but there is kind of a bit of a garden or remnants of a garden. And you would all know from being here as kids, out there somewhere, there's a swimming hole as well, kind of between the house and the woods. So you can kind of poke around any of those places, just kind of do what you want to do. But for, sorry, I'm forgetting, for Rosemary or Rowan, what's your next move here? What do you want to do?
If we haven't had the unopened gifts kind of drawn attention to us yet, I think that Rosemary would probably settle into what she does best when she's in an unfamiliar situation and she's not quite sure how to make herself useful, which is probably she would head to the kitchen, the most communal area that she possibly can, so she cannot be accused of prying or starting without anyone or doing anything like that. And I think that she would instantly try to make everyone tea and kind of start to, but what it would become, I think, is her cleaning the kitchen when she gets in there, and she, well, the state of the kitchen, I imagine, is not like the cleanest. So I think that she would get in there and it would become like, it would just become this like, right, I've got to make everyone tea. She'd start unpacking her bags. I think she bought strange tea bags with her. She's like a bit of a tea sommelier, as it were. She like really enjoys like weird and unusual tea flavors. And I think that maybe it's also part of the reason why no one likes Rosemary. She's constantly just making like strange cups of tea, which everyone is just like, I just want like a classic builder's brew, and you're just what is this that you're giving me? But she's excited to try out these new flavors. She starts to do it, and then she kind of sees things that need to be tidied or organized or cleaned, and she just kind of gets a little bit stuck in that, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll come back to the kitchen and describe it a little bit more. While that's happening, Elle, what is Rosemary getting up to? Oh, sorry, not Rosemary, Rowan.
I know we chose very similar names. I actually think that Rowan is sort of following Rosemary to the kitchen. Um, I think, well, they're not actually following Rosemary. They're just going to the kitchen and they have this sort of like ghost-like almost way of, ending up in the same place as someone else as though they're tethered to them. But Rowan is starving. So they're going to be raiding the cabinets and the fridge, if the house hasn't been empty for so long. Um, and they're doing so in such a way that even Rosemary with her kind of hectic bouncing around the kitchen, like they never actually get in each other's way. Like Rowan is very adept at slipping between the cracks and in the empty spaces.
Nice. Actually, Alice perfectly mentioned Rowan being really hungry. Something about being back in this kitchen. It's this even though it's raining outside, there's a little bit of sunlight coming in the window onto the ceramic tile countertops. It's pretty small. There's a little dining table. It's kind of scuffed from use over the years. It's crowded in with a few chairs. As you're opening both of you are going through the pantry. Um, there's moths that kind of flutter out. There's unlabeled jars of preserved food of different sorts. And there's still a lingering smell of coffee, warm bread, cigarettes. We'll come back to you both in a second, but I'd be curious to know what childhood snack you find yourself craving, or if it's something even more than that. Is there some more of an unusual craving you find yourself having from this kind of the way that your senses bring back memories of this place? I will come back to you, and then let's see Damien for a moment. Isaac will be arriving. I don't know if you've communicated this or what are you doing in the meantime?
Oh, actually, Isaac's gonna find Damien walking to the house.
Nice.
I'm not at the train station. Actually, you're gonna find him on this, like walking down the side of a rural road, backpack, and just trying to light a cigarette in the rain, kind of pissed that it went out for like the third time. And I imagine it bothers you a lot that he smokes, but
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And I think this is exactly that situation where it's like drove past and then had to be like, wait a sec, and then had to like, turn around. I think by now it's gone to like, it's now full raining as opposed to just like a little drizzle.
Drowned rat.
Drowned rat. And then I think that the unspecified navy blue sedan rolls up. Actually, I'm gonna just officialize that as like an actual like character detail. It's like it's some kind of Japanese car, but it's like it's you don't really know what kind of brand it is. It's
like off-brand.
It's not quite off. Maybe it's a new thing. I don't know. It seems like a money thing. Who knows? But I think the car rolls up and like stops, and he like rolls down the window and like goes.
He's just like, oh. Well, that's convenient.
Yeah, would you like to get in the car?
I
was on my way to pick you up. Unless I'm mistaken, the train station has awnings and an interior. I heard they added a food court last summer, so I mean, really, you're walking in the rain.
Yeah, I don't want to stay at the train station. I didn't want to just sort of live there.
You didn't want to live there?
Yeah, I didn't want to stay, and I didn't want to pay for a cab. So, and it's not that far of a walk, really. It's just
is
the weather's just kind of shitty.
The weather is very, very shitty. Get in the car.
Okay. And he tosses down the cigarette and stomps it out, even though it's fucking wet, because he knows how you are, and gets in the front seat.
As you open the front door, he says, and there's like, it's like leather seats. He goes, I have a towel in the back seat. You can put it down here.
Christ. Okay. Do you think it's going to ruin your car? Okay, whatever. And but instead of actually opening the back door, he gets in the front and leans back over the console. And
then you would see all of the wrapped gifts that I just shoved in the back seat that are just kind of there that he forgot about.
Whose birthday is it?
What?
Yeah, what's up with this?
Shit. I forgot about them actually. They were at the house, outside the house. I didn't want them to get rained on, so I put them on my car while I was waiting for your sister and Rowan to show up, and then I forgot about them and I came to pick up you, and so that's what they are. I don't know what they are. Is the short answer.
Okay, that's super normal. All right. Guess we'll open them at the house since you decided to put them in your car instead of in the house like a normal person. Okay. And he shuts the door.
There's like a moment of just like awkward pause and just quiet. And then I think Isaac does like probably like the worst possible thing to do, which is just like in this wordless, just uncomfortable situation, he just like leans across the center thing between the sheets and goes for just kind of like an awkward like side like hug.
Oh
Good to
my
see you, bro. Like it's clear that he is like kind of like awkward about it, but like is well meaning, and even and is also like the wetness is just trying to like ignore it slightly, but it's just so uncomfortable and awkward.
Yeah, Damien can tell it's well meaning, and he just like does it back. He's like, thanks for picking me up. It's a lot easier than walking. So I appreciate it.
Of course. Let's might as well make it back. I told your sister and Rowan to make themselves at home. Funny. And
Yeah, right.
yeah, it was actually well, Rose was supposed to pick you up, but I I
She,
the I, well, I know. I had texted her about it and the text did not go through, so it went uncommunicated. This
yeah,
is
no
my
one
fault.
told me anything. So like
Yes,
that's like
yes,
soup.
yes.
Like you
All
can
of
consult me like
all of
a
the text
person.
all of the texts I had sent did not send. I
Oh,
was yeah, no, they did not send. It
were you
was
in a cave?
next closest thing, a tunnel.
Huh.
Yes,
It's
I
fine. I'm not really worried about it. No
okay.
one needed to come pick me up like I'm an adult. It's fine.
Damien, it is 6 miles to the house.
It's not that far.
So how's school? He says, he's driving back onto the road.
That's great.
Yeah.
We'll cut
Yeah.
back to you.
It's
That's awesome.
perfect. It's a perfect.
So Rowan and Rosemary, you're in the kitchen, you're poking around. Yeah. What do you notice? What are you craving? Any childhood memories coming back? It's implied it's been a while since you've been here, but you definitely spent some time here when you were younger.
I think that Rosemary is kind of like making up these teas, and I think that she's trying like she likes to be quiet and calm around Rowan because that seems to be Rowan's preference. But she's also very aware that they haven't seen each other for some time. So she's also occasionally trying to make awkward conversation. And I think she kind of offers to make tea and then just starts making it. And then as she's kind of looking for sugar, I think she opens up one of the cupboards which she kind of knows that's where the sugar used to be kept. And she's kind of hit with like that smell of like brown sugar and cinnamon and like that just like that very like like the baking cupboard like where you open it
Mhm.
and it's just all of the like
You ever
and
just feel your salivary glands activate?
yeah,
Yeah.
I think it's that. I think what she remembers about that is she so I think that she remembers that this was like she used to when she used to kind of she has always looked up to Isaac a little bit and he got very interested in food and obviously that then became him kind of like being a chef. And I think that she tried to copy without copying and went through a series of failed like baking experiments. They weren't
Mm.
bad necessarily, but they weren't like, fantastic. But the one thing that she could make that she remembers like making all the time because one of you complimented them and then that she like latched onto it and just made them a lot was just these sort of like pecan and cinnamon cupcakes. And I think that she used to like just make them a lot for desserts. And so she hasn't had them in years, but the moment that she opens this cupboard, she's hit with this baking smell and she just remembers how much she used to just kind of get lost in that. And she kind of just was like, I should make those cupcakes while we're here. I didn't even think I should have bought some.
Rosemary, you realize that smell at first, it's what you were expecting. You kind of, but it's almost like your memory filling in the gaps because I'm going to say this is a taller cupboard. And as you're kind of like expecting maybe old baking supplies, something's kind of weird about this cupboard. It's not what you remember. The back of it seems to be gutted, um, like someone tore out the back of it, and you can see further into the wall, and there's just blackened beams and twisted wire for some reason, almost like something's kind of torn it up and dug around, and you get a bit of a faint draft and a very faint smell of rot. And I'm going to have you make the day move here. What are you afraid might happen if you don't hold it together in this moment?
I I think that she's desperately trying to like hold on to this feeling of like whatever is happening, whatever reason that we've like been summoned here, we've all got a place in this. We're all here for a reason. She's trying to think of all four of us as like kind of on an almost even footing, because she's got this very underlying knowledge that she's quite often overlooked and unheard in situations. And I think that just as she gets this like immediate sense of like something's weird, something's wrong, it's gutted, it's like rotted, it's moldy, and that instantly sparks her like ick as it were, and she kind of wants to, she feels very nauseous, she wants to run out of the house, she wants to like vomit probably, but she's like, put it together, Rosemary, put it together, because she doesn't want to give anyone any reason to not listen to her or overlook her anymore. And if she thinks that if she doesn't pull it together, and if she comes across in any way as weak or affected by things already, that people will kind of just be like, just go home, Rosemary.
Yeah.
That kind of like feeling. So she doesn't want to like miss out on anything. So even if it's the negative stuff, so she kind of just
like the way you describe that. We'll have you roll with vitality, and it's in the moves reference as well. But we're basically setting the stakes here. We'll have you roll, and then we'll see what happens. So you're gonna roll 2d6 plus your vitality.
It's my vitality. I don't think I have anything in vitality, which makes sense. Oh, I rolled a 6 and a 5, so I rolled an 11.
Nice, 11. Okay. So yeah, on a 10 plus, you do what you intended. You hold steady. So you do avoid any reaction like you described. We'll come back to you in a moment. While you're holding it together, while you're gathering yourself.
I think she's just like slightly gagging, but just taking a
yeah. In the meantime, Rowan hasn't noticed any of this yet. Rowan, you were talking about going through the cupboards or looking around, I guess.
Yeah, I think while Rowan does that, they begin to feel like a sort of like heat sort of growing under their collar, like they're starting to feel a bit feverish, and we see them sort of shrug off the jacket they're wearing and leave it hanging over one of the kitchen chairs. And they just feel really thirsty all of a sudden. So they kind of are rooting around in the back of the fridge, and they'll pull out like this pitcher of water. And as Rosemary is talking and like discovering the cinnamon and the sugar and the cupcake ingredients and whatnot, Rowan is just in the background, like gulping this pitcher down, and like all we hear is Rosemary droning on and the rain beating against the kitchen windows and just that gulp, gulp, gulp.
Nice. How long has that water been there, do we think? It could have been recent. That's fine. That's fair. I don't know.
I think even if it tastes a little off, Rowan is still going for it.
committed.
Yeah. If you want, you'll notice Rosemary here in a moment, and you all can have that conversation or continue. Let's come back to the other two for a moment. Isaac, you're having this conversation on and off, and it's kind of winding somewhat mountain roads. It's raining. It's not the best roads. They're starting to get a little bit muddy, and your car lurches to this halt. You don't even feel an impact. You almost feel like something invisibly has just stopped you in place. And before you have a moment to process this or even react or say anything, you kind of see just up ahead a tree kind of starts to shift, and it's like an older tree that's kind of looks dead and rotten, and maybe with some earth coming loose in the rain, just kind of creaks and crashes right across the road in front of you. If you hadn't somehow been stopped, this would have gone very differently.
Yeah, I think Isaac has a composure that is easily broken by shit like this. Just like he's usually very quiet, but it gets very loud when stressed out or just something like that happens. So it's like probably quiet conversation in the car. This happens, and it's just a sudden, very quick, like, what the fuck? Just and that's like, the tree comes like crashing down. He goes,
Jesus. Jesus fucking Christ.
Let's have a move for Isaac here as well.
Yeah, please.
Oh boy.
I mean, yeah, like you described, just nerves, just holding it together. I think partially because of the crash, but what happened a moment before is very strange too. I'm gonna have this be the night move. Just saying supernaturally, whatever, it's extra weird.
Gabriel's coming out swinging. Okay.
We only have 3 sessions. We got to hit hard. Also, I didn't mention it, but you do have the moves reference sheet, and I haven't even talked about it, but there are spotlight moves at the bottom there if you haven't seen them.
I've been looking at them.
Those are one-use moves. Anyone can just use at any time and mark, but once they're marked, they're gone. And they're all kind of like story beat dramatic moments, spotlight moves. You just get to do the thing. So if you haven't seen those, just a reminder, you can use them at any time. But yeah, what Isaac, unless of course you were triggering one of those, what are you afraid might happen here if you lose your nerve?
I actually do think it'd be very appropriate if I invoked one of these spotlight moves right now, if I did Something's Not Right.
Yep.
Because one, I'll automatically gain a condition, which it feels appropriate for this scene. But also because it feels like it's if I'm doing that in lieu of rolling, I think it's a very fun beat to hit right now. So I'm gonna activate Something's Not Right. So I take the condition on edge. Describe an unsettling feeling you have about the house, a strange sensation, something out of place, a general unease, and what you believe has caused it. This information counts as a clue. The first time any sibling acts on this information, they roll with advantage.
You can interpret the house as the family land as well, however you want to do that.
Yeah. So I think the tree comes down, and there's this minor outburst, this exclamation from Isaac. But once the tree slams into the ground and a moment passes, he's just kind of there agape for a moment, and then he looks over at Damien and says, "You okay?"
Yeah, I'm fine. That was good driving. Are you good?
I think I may have hit a pothole. I don't. Then, as he begins to like put the car in reverse, and clearly we're not in a pothole because there's nothing that should have stopped me. He just kind of like swallows like a lump in his throat and just looks over, past you through the window and goes, just look. I don't want to scrape this side of the escarpment. Just can you be my eyes? Thank you.
Sure.
He's just begins to pivot around the tree and kind of like as the brain goes, that was close.
Oh shit.
There wasn't rain on the forecast. I just remembered that. I mean, not that I put a lot of stock in the weather being accurate, just it's really coming down today. How Sorry, what were we talking about before?
It
The
doesn't
tree?
matter. Yeah,
No?
it doesn't actually matter, I don't think.
Oh, come on. Surely you've been, I don't know, making friends. I mean, you just graduated, right? So how are you feeling? I'm putting my eyes kind of back on the road. There's clear, it's like there's something kind of eating at Isaac, but he's like diverting the conversation to back to Damien a little bit to escape that moment as what's eating at him is slowly coming to the fore. But
Damon, you probably would be aware. I mean, you've all been on this land, but you can probably tell. Maybe you're not uh, quite in the same state as Isaac, but you know you're gonna have to find a different way to the house. And there's other sort of side roads and back roads. Unless you're gonna try to move this like big old dead tree.
Yeah, no. I think actually he just sort of was like, I don't let's deal with this before I talk about whatever bullshit I was doing at school, all right? Like this is you can't get around this. Like nope, nope. No, you can't get around this. This is
it looks
your
like there's
car's too
room.
big.
It
Your
look
car's too big.
It's not too big. I can make
Yeah.
it around.
You told me to be your eyes. I'm telling you it's too big. You can't do it. If you're gonna unless you want to scrape the side of your whatever the fuck kind of car this is.
Fuck me. Fuck. All right. Yes. Great. Yes.
Get it stuck.
I
You
have
can
a
walk?
no. We're definitely not
No.
walking. Do you have? Is your phone dead, or do you have? You just use my phone. Just like
Okay.
hold the smartphone. Just like, can you get us the? Can you pull up the back roads? There's the I know there's more than one way getting up.
I don't
You
need to
are,
put. I know. Of course, I remember how to get up. What are you talking about?
you
I
remember
don't
how
need
to get
this.
back to the house. You remember to get back to
Yes,
the house that you have barely seen since you have been away? That barely any of us have seen in a long time?
I'm just saying it's logical. It's that way. And
Okay.
go
Okay.
around, go
He
around. We just head.
Isaac nods. He says, "Okay, no,
We just head east, and then we are there.
okay, I stand corrected." He's clearly, you seem to know he means
It's
to
not.
drive away, and I think this is the segue into how I'll talk about something like the unsettling feeling. He begins to readjust the course and drive away, and maybe a couple minutes pass, and then he just says, kind of, apropos of nothing, he's just like, we never drove up the mountain ourselves, any of us. That was, and I only really ever remember going up and down the main road. You seem to know a lot about the side roads, and that's the thing that I'm actually kind of realizing right now. I don't know, maybe this sounds a little too much. It just feels like I don't really ever remember taking these roads or using these roads in any way, or let alone driving on them. And I'm recalling very vividly the route as we're driving up. That's I don't know. It feels like this house is it just feels there. You know what I mean by that? Just like it feels like I always know how to get back there, even when I don't. It just feels, I don't know. Does that sound crazy? Do you understand what I'm getting by that?
No, it doesn't sound crazy. It's just really easy to find.
Think about if any of those things are your clue. And I'll probably have you just, well, if we have time, we might come back to you, but you'll be kind of going through the woods effectively.
Yeah. I do think though the clue is simply just that the house is very easy to find. That feels very ominous to say.
Yeah. For you, yeah. I just want to cut back to Rowan here. I was checking safety tabs and stuff, but if it's okay with you in this direction, I think you've chugged the water and you see the bottom of the pitcher, and there's this almost like pond scum on the bottom, which you didn't notice before. And you look deeper into the fridge, I'm just throwing another clue out here, actually, just to kind of for pacing. There's mold along the back of this fridge. You didn't see it at first. How do you respond?
I think that if Rowan is disgusted in this moment, it's more about the fact that they don't really mind that they just drink pond water. Like, this thirst that they have is so deep and so like demanding that they would drink more if there were more water in the pitcher to drink. So I think we see them kind of shake their head as they're like shaking off the thirst or trying to, and wiping their mouth, and they'll turn their attention to Rosemary just to get their mind off of it. Huh. Has it always been like that?
She kind of like takes a sharp exhale and she's well, what has always been like what? What has always been like what?
The gaping hole in the back of the cupboard. And Rowan's walking over and is gonna just like kind of stick their arm as far back as they can reach and sort of root
Oh,
around.
don't touch it. Could be all sorts of nastiness. Um, and she's again, I think that she kind of does this thing that she always has this instinct to immediately like lash out and say things, and then like something kind of holds her back sometimes, and she just ends up so she kind of like wants to immediately, like, you can see almost like this physical reaction to almost like grab your arm to stop you, and then she pulls back again, and then she's just like, well, no, it didn't used to be. There used to be, I mean, I don't even see the sugar. I hope it hasn't disappeared down the back.
Rowan's on their tiptoes now, like reaching as far back as someone physically
Nice.
could.
Sounds like a move here. Do you want to trigger a spotlight move specifically, or this is the unearth move? If you are prying into things best left alone, we could do the unearth move.
Sure, that sounds fine. I'll pry.
Yeah.
Love to pry.
Let's see. You don't seem like too perturbed by the weirdness here. So I mean, this could probably be I don't know. What do you think your approach is here? Just kind of went right for the weird, like, hole in the cupboard that shouldn't be there.
Yeah, maybe composure.
Yeah, that makes sense. You're pretty calm about it. Let's see what happens.
All right, that's a 7.
Nice. You do find a clue, and there's a complication with it. I think you find your hand touches something kind of like hard. It's like a picture frame. Kind of pull it out. It's dusty. Not sure what it's doing back there. And it's a photo of a family member holding an unusual object. I'm going to leave that to you. You get to paint the scene, what the object is, and where you've seen it before. I'm going to say it's a photo of Uncle Harlow. I'll give you a second for that. And I'll follow up with a complication after that. Do you have any thoughts on that? Or do you want us to come back to you?
Yeah, I think he has something of his lady love who died. I think he was a strange man. He
Mhm.
kept a like little jar of her teeth
Hmm.
because her smile was his favorite thing.
Sure. Oh
It's
man.
creepy.
Yeah, that is something. Um, I think the complication is just that when you take this photo kind of out from its weird stash hiding place, you just hear something move from within the walls of the kitchen further in. There's just the sound of like shifting, and you can't tell the size of what this is. If it's not, if it's a maybe it's just a rat, um, but it feels like scurrying away in a way that's putting a little bit of force on the boards of the house. There's a bit of resistance from the house, scraping, creaking, maybe like ripping of some wire or something from further inside. I'll just give you the condition, something in the walls for now. We'll come back to those. Yeah,
Rowan
go
that
ahead.
hears that? Is it just Rowan that hears that?
I don't know. What do you think, Al? Leave that up to you.
Oh no, it's up to me. I think perhaps it's just Rowan that hears it, but Rosemary would see the way Rowan sort of
Mhm.
slowly pulls their arm back and like their eyes kind of follow the trajectory of the noise, like following
Mhm.
its movement in the walls.
Wide eyes, like we described earlier.
I think Rosemary would just kind of, as you kind of pull back very slowly and watch the sound of this movement, I think Rosemary would kind of like um stop looking at the picture for a moment and just kind of looking like, what what is it? And like start to try to listen and not be able to hear or figure out what it is you're seeing, but it's just that kind of like impulse to like something's happening and I'm being left out and I don't like it. So it's just like, did you hurt yourself?
No, it's just old houses. They move sometimes.
Move? Oh God, hope we don't have rats here. And she that kind of like you probably recognize the expression. I don't think Rosemary's like aversion to like moldy, icky, nasty things is I think it's well known amongst the siblings. So I think that you would just kind of recognize that face of just like, oh no, another thing to like clean and potentially figure out. And it's like just all like dirt and mold and she just does not like it at all. So she just kind of like immediately walks away from the cupboard and begins to continue with the tea. Um and she says, so why what 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 do you what do you think we're all here for exactly?
Um, maybe
Oh, sorry.
un maybe
Sorry,
Uncle
muting
Harlow.
myself.
Oh,
I was gonna say, if, you all can definitely play that out further, but as we be mindful of our time, we could have that conversation phase. We zoom out if that's okay. Um, but I want to hear what Elle was just saying too. Sorry.
I think Rowan just says maybe Uncle Harlow has gifts for us.
Oh,
See, that's yeah. What a perfect line to cut on. We zoom out. I think we just get a couple of shots here of yeah, those weird pile of packages. Um, different sizes and shapes, no addresses. Um, out in the back of the car. It's raining. We see the outside of the house, and we see Isaac's car winding through a back road in the woods. And I think our sort of last little stinger shot here is as the tires leave kind of trails in the mud, kind of linger on the water pooling in those trails. And there's other, as we kind of like follow their trail, there's other like depressions in the ground as well, some kind of strange footprints, but they're shaped weird. They're kind of dragged a little bit long. They're almost ragged impressions, kind of clutching and clawing at the ground, and they're following the car back towards the house.
Oh no.
So we'll come back to all that. We'll do stars and wishes, just the last few minutes we have. Just a shout out, stars, moments you liked, highlights, and then wishes, things you might be looking forward to seeing next time. I'll just say real quick, stars to everyone for jumping into a playtest. We're really excited about this game. It's got some rough edges to it, but it's going really fun places. So I just really appreciate you all and all the character creation and everything you've set up already before we even like started to see your characters on screen was just so good and so juicy. And I'm really excited to see how all those tensions play out.
Yeah, no, I'll throw out some stars for sure real fast. I really enjoyed the character creation process, getting to kind of flesh out the siblings together. The collaborative attribute building was spun off nicely from kind of the original idea that we did with Pizza Time, and I really liked the sibling particular angle on that one, because I feel like that adds a layer of like personality to fleshing out not just your character but how the others see you. On that same note, the Bond dice I think is also a really good like first starting oracle. So for establishing these characters and making them feel like they have history right out of the gate. So like this is a star to the mechanics, but also to the players, because everything we kind of built together during the first hour and a half, I felt like it was really strengthened by the role play. So getting to kind of have the timidness of Rosemary kind of show up in that first scene, and then picking up Damien in the rain and the car conversations. I have and Elle with your fucked up mold water. I have a really like solid foundation of like these characters, so I feel like everyone did a great job with that. And it feels very moody and atmospheric, and also like we're all gonna have a terrible time, which I want and I'm looking forward to. I'm looking forward to a very terrible time and maybe some real clashing, perhaps. We'll see.
Mm. I'll go next as the second oldest. I think very similar things. I really enjoyed the character creation process. I really enjoyed like collaborating. I love games like that where you kind of collaborate and ask each other questions and kind of inspire each other's thoughts. I like the tone of the game a lot. I like that we're kind of delving into a lot of like different horror and like kind of how trauma can affect things, and it can be like, is it supernatural or is it just trauma? Like that kind of like that kind of mix. I am very much I enjoy we've only got like a small snapshot of these characters so far, but I'm enjoying like the kind of like the detail that is coming out in them already. I really, really love Rowan's like weirdness, but in like such a calm, like as if it's the most normal thing in the world manner almost. Um, I enjoy I can really see Isaac as like the head of the family as already as just being like this kind of ultra responsible and the one they all look to, but the one that probably is like just also slightly like dad like in humor and like trying to look after everyone. I'm really enjoying Damien. I'm just enjoying Damien. Just walking along. I really like that we're kind of like coming into places and changing little bits and kind of establishing that setting. I like the creepy. I like the creepy that is happening so far. It's like a very slow build, but that's the one of my favorite things about like the Haunting of Hill House and things like that, that I enjoy watching that really slow build before things get too scary. So Yeah, that's my stars. And my wishes really is just for us to kind of get a much. I'm looking forward to us all coming together and kind of interacting as a bigger group. I think that will be really interesting to watch as a dynamic. So.
Yeah, for my stars, I also very much enjoyed the character creation. I love the fact that the details that emerged from that kind of built out not just the individual character that I was focused on, but like the history of the family as a whole. Like Kat's addition of the parents' death in the car crash was amazing. And I love the way the structure of character creation kind of implicitly encourages those moments to happen, even though that's not necessarily part of the prompt. Um, yeah, I think the establishing scenes for these characters have been super interesting. I love the dynamics, and I can't wait to see like different pairings of siblings as well. Um, but one thing that struck me that was very different from the first playtest I played in is that we didn't have any scenes outside of the house really, in the first one. And to see that here and to see that there's room for that in the game to maybe a limited degree, but still was a really interesting change of pace. And yeah, I'm excited about the Bond dice, and I want them to come into play in full force next time. I'm excited to see them in action.
Stars to everyone for playtesting this. Fabulous, fabulous, fabulous. I adore you all. Stars to Gabriel for running this for the second time for me, and Elle. This is fabulous. You're really I love the pacing that you're nailing. It's really you're helping us definitely get this sort of like this A24 thing, and all everybody else is like really embracing this like
Yeah.
the interpersonal drama, and you're like, do it a little more, do it a little more. Let's make it a little more fucked up. Like, and I have to, yeah, stars for Cat saying our parents died. That like in a car crash. That's awesome. That was a cool addition. Alex insinuating first that we lived with Uncle Virgil, and then Kat being like, yeah, because our parents are dead. And I'm like, that whips. And then Elle kind of giving Rowan this like, I think Rowan is our cousin. Like this is like, but there are weird cousins. Like I love that everybody during character creation had these very fleshed out ideas of who they were already. And then as soon as we got into role play, you were all like it's so delicious. Isaac, I feel he had this very dad like. He feels like he's sick of everybody's shit. That was ominous, Gabriel.
Yeah. Flickering lights.
The flickering lights are very ominous, and I'm very excited. I loved getting to do like the picking me up in the car thing. That was very fun, Alex. I don't get to usually role play with you as a person, other than like that, like just a single character. Like usually you're the GM, and that was a fun. It was a fun difference. I love that. Cat, I love Rosemary. This poor sweet girl. Like I love that the scene where you were like trying to like oh no god, oh god, don't touch it. Oh, don't touch it. Like that felt very real. Like that was beautiful. And the married twice, this like a clean the muffin thing, that was like you made me want them. I want some cinnamon pecan muffins now, brewed.
Sorry.
Elle, I love it. I love it. Elle, I love Rowan. You're so good at playing little weirdos. Like, just, I'm obsessed. I'm obsessed. What a strange little cat. And I love this. Like, you weren't concerned about drinking pond water. Like, the stuff you're worried about is so different than, like, what Rosemary's worried about or what either Isaac or Damien's worried about. Like, it's a really fun addition to this dynamic of somebody who's just a little odd and who will stick their arm into the wall. Every horror movie needs this person. Everybody. And it's
I
just
absolutely needed this person because as soon as you said that there was some like opening in the wall, Kat was like, "Oh, I want to stick my arm in it," but Rosemary would never.
exactly. Rowan is needed for this ecosystem to thrive.
Yeah, I need Rowan to see this.
And so I really love this. I'm super excited to see this new structure that we've got, having played this before with the old structure and this new 3-part structure. I'm very, very, very excited. I think I think it's going to be very fun, and I appreciate you all. You're all absolute gems.
Yeah, stars also to the oh, let's pick up Damien at the train station, just like throwing that weird curveball out there, and that was just a fun, different scene to have. So I always love the unexpected approaches, and yeah, just to second the wish to see that B and I co-wrote the scenario, and like the structure changed a lot, so it's still figuring that out. But there's a lot more layers to the location, so I'm very excited to see not only when you dig around, but when you dig around. When you're poking around at night, the house behaves differently. It's a lot of fun stuff to discover. We're a little bit over. Any other stars or wishes from anybody?
Just excited for next week.
Yeah. Awesome. We'll stop the recording there.